Yeah, this is a very important topic when you talk about any cloud, whether it is Google, Amazon, or Azure cloud. So this is where it is a very interesting topic, which is virtual private cloud, where we are going to discuss mostly about the networks, firewalls, and subnets, IP address, etc. Okay, so VPC provides a networking for your cloud resource and service that is global, scalable, flexible. Okay, so please very careful. Just remember this word global. Okay, so VPC is nothing but a service which will provide you networking service for your cloud resource in GCP. Okay, and it is a global. So what does it mean by global means? So those who worked in Azure, right? So they might have no. So when you create any VNet in Azure, okay. So for example, you are creating a VNet in Azure. So VNet is nothing but a network you are defining. So in the Azure. So when you define the VNet, you will mention the location. Either it should be in South India or any location, Chennai or Mumbai or whatever. Okay. So this VNet is bound to this particular region. Okay. But in GCP, when you create a VPC, VPC is nothing but VNet. Okay, just our name is different here. So when you create a VPC, you're not defining any region. So that is why it is called as a global. Okay, so now you may have a question. I want to deploy VM in Mumbai in GCP. Then how I will select the network which is hosted in Mumbai, right? So here comes the tricky part. Okay, in Azure, you deploy your VNet based on the region, then you will create a subnets, subnet 1, subnet 2, subnet 3. Okay, subnet is nothing but smaller chunk of IP address. For example, 10.0.0.0/24 one subnet, 10.0.2.0/24. So similarly, you will have a n number of subnets, right? So these all subnets belongs to this VNet, and this VNet belongs to this region. Okay, this is how it works in Azure. Yeah. But in Google Cloud, you're not defining any location which to the VPC. That is why I told it is global. So now when you create subnet, right, this time you will define the location. For example, I'm creating a subnet 1, okay, which is 10.125.0.0/24. That time I will select this should be in Mumbai. Okay, next time I'm creating another subnet, which is 10.145.0.0/24, which is in Chennai. Or another one is in North Europe or West Europe or US, wherever it is. Okay, so here in the subnet level you are defining, not on the VPC level, but in Azure we are defining it on the VNet level, and you are not defining it in the subnet level. So whatever the subnet you deploy in Azure, right, so by default it will take the VNet region. Okay, there is no option where you can change the location. So if you want to create a separate in some other region, then you have to create a separate VNet. But here you no need to create any separate VNet. Okay, within a VPC you can create multiple subnets in different geolocations. Okay, so guys, so this concept is clear, because I wanted to mainly spend more time on the networking part, because this is where most of the people find difficulty to understand. So I want to make it very simple. That is why I'm going to spend more time on routing, firewalls, etc. So so far, are you guys clear what is the difference between VPC and Azure VNet if you are already worked on VNet, and why I could called this VPC as a global, right?
Sure.
Yes, yes.
Clear, right? So far.
Yep.
Okay, great. So one more difference I wanted to tell you, in Azure, when you create VNet, you will define something called address space. Okay, address space is nothing but 10.0.0.0/16. So you're defining a bigger chunk. This may have a 65,000 IP address. So you can calculate that to the power n-1, that formula, if you want exact number. So address space is nothing but a bigger chunk of IP address that you wanted to assign to your VNet. Okay, for example, you have then you can then you will create subnet. Subnet is nothing but a smaller chunk of IP address. From this address space, I'm going to create 10.0. 1.0/24, 10.0.2.0.24 or 20, 23, 22, whatever it is. Okay, so as far as this IP address are, should be in the within this address space. Okay, so this is how we are defining in Azure. Okay, so we are defining an address space, and then we are defining a subnet. So address space is nothing but a bigger chunk of IP address which we are defining at the VNet level, and then we are dividing this into smaller chunks, which is called as subnets. And in this subnet you can deploy your virtual machines. Okay, this is how Azure works. Okay, so when it comes to Google Cloud, there is no concept of defining the address space. Okay, you're not defining any address space. So for example, if you create a VPC, you're not defining any address space. Okay, you're directly defining your subnets, subnet 1, subnet 2, subnet 3. Okay, for example, 10.0.1.0/24, 10.0.2.0/24, whatever whatsoever. So you're defining the subnets, you're not defining the address space. Why? Because this is a global level, as I told you. That is why. So here you're not defining the address space because this is a regional level. This is the difference between Azure, VNet and VPC. So when you compare with Azure and Google Cloud, it will be very easy to understand how it works and what is the difference. Okay, so I hope you guys are clear with the address space and what is subnet. Okay, those who are new to GCP, just forget about address space. Don't get confused. Those who already worked with Azure, it is for them. Okay, what is the difference between subnet and address space? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's talk about when you create any VPC, that is virtual private cloud network in Azure. So by default, for example, when you create a project, okay, just for example, you are creating a new project, which is nothing but a subscription in Azure term. Okay, by default, you will get one VPC, which is a default mode VPC. Okay, so in Azure, when you create any new subscription, you won't get any VPC or nothing. Okay, it is a plain subscription without any resource. Okay, but in Google, when you create any project, by default you will get a VPC, which is called as a default VPC. For now, we have created one VPC project, right? So let's see whether it is created a VPC or not. Okay, so we'll go to our network. Okay, so VPC network. You can see here, right? It is created a VPC. Okay, so it is created a network, default network for us. So whenever you create any new project, it comes with the default VPC. Okay, so here see in the VPC, in front of VPC you see region dash, right? It means it is a global VPC. Okay, it is not bind to any region. Okay, then we have something called auto mode VPC. In this network, one subnet from each region is created automatically within it. Okay, so it means, for example, when you have a default VP, when you create this is the default VPC which I just explained. Okay, now we have something called auto mode VPC. Auto mode VPC is nothing but when you create any new VPC, right? For example, I'm creating a new VPC. Okay, I don't want to use a default VPC. I want to create a new VPC. So I will create auto VPC demo. Okay, so under subnet, you'll see two options, custom subnet and automatic. Okay, so as the name suggests, auto mode. In this article, in this network, one subnet from each region is automatically created within it. It means, so when I create automatic, right? These are all the regions, like we have like a number of Google region, right? So from each region, automatically it will create one subnet for you automatically. Okay, whether it is from South Asia South or Southeast, or like from or if Google is having 50 regions, so from the 50 region it will create the subnets for you automatically, so you don't need to create it with your own. So if you wanted to use the automated one, you can use it, and then you can deploy your VMs on these subnets. Okay, so this is related to the auto mode VPC. Okay, even your default VPC, right? As I told you, this is also comes with automated only. So if you see, if you expand this, you will see right in your central it deployed 10.128.0.0/20. Okay, so in all the region it deployed. Okay, automatically for you. So you no need to create any subnets. You no need to define any network. So this is Google is creating on the behalf of you. Okay, so this is one good options, but most of the organization they don't want to use any the automated one because they have their own IP range, and they wanted to make use of the IP range, and also make sure that when you see, let's say you're going with the default one, always make sure that the region which, for example, I am selecting Asia East one. Okay, so Asia South one, I think this is Mumbai. So if I select Mumbai with the default one, you have to make sure that your on-prem network or any other network is not overlapping with this IP address. Okay, so you have to make sure that. So the best option is don't go with the default unless until it is very required. So always create a new VPC with custom. Okay, this is similar to you're creating a VNet in Azure. Okay, so here I will say VDI VPC. Okay, I'll select custom. It'll ask you add the subnet. So I'm going to add, I will say VDI production subnet name, and then I will select the region as uh, Asia South 1. Okay, then I will give the range, that is 10.125.0.0/24. This is based on your VDA workload. For example, if you deploy with the /24, you can have 253 VM, 252 I believe, because the IP address, the first IP address will go to Google. It will be starting from 10.125.0.2 if I'm not wrong till 253 I believe, 254. Yeah, so if you have more than 255 session host, then try to use 23, or if you have more than 1000, try to use 22 or 21 based on the requirements. Okay, so if you have a very smaller subnet, let's say if you have 50 VDIs etc., then you can use 28 or such subnet mask. Okay, so that you don't waste your IP address. Let's say you are defining /20, which is more than 2000 IP address, and you're just deploying only 5 to 10 VDS. That doesn't make sense at all. Okay, so plan your subnets accordingly. Okay, so now the important thing is Google private access. This is very important thing. As I told you, right, Google private access, this is nothing but by default. Okay, just for now, just make sure that you enable this, because we have a separate slide to discuss about Google private access. Yeah, and flow logs, this is nothing but you wanted to send your VPC logs to the log analytics. So in Google also they have their own log analytics, similar to Microsoft we have a log analytics workspace, right? So similarly, if you want to enable, you can enable it, but this will anyway cost you charge. It is not a free charge, free of cost. Then we have a firewall rules. Okay, by default this will suggest you, when you're creating a VPC, this will suggest what all the firewall rules you wanted to apply to this VPC. Okay, so if you wanted to allow ICMP, you can allow it. So it will allow from, you can see IP range, right? Source IP range. This is 0.0.0 means from internet anybody can ping to your VNet. To your VPC. If you select RDP, anybody from internet, 0.0 means always it is internet. Yeah, okay, anybody can do RDP to the firewall. We have a separate slide, I'm not talking about much on this. Okay, so regional and global, this is also I will explain you in the later slide. What is regional means it will it won't advertise your routes to the global region. It will be stay within Mumbai itself. Okay, so this will discuss later. Okay, for now I'll select regional, and it is a best practice. to select regional itself, so that you're you're not exposing your routes to global Google network. Okay, you're keeping it on your region itself. Yeah. So then you click on create. Okay, now what happened? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I think I have selected one more subnet, that is why. Okay, so now everything is fine. I think we can create the VPC. Okay, so you can see your activity logs, everything is here. Okay, so it will tell you what all the tasks going on, and I can monitor from here. Okay. So now I hope you guys are clear with what is default mode, what is auto mode, and what is custom mode. Okay, now we have in the production, always go with the custom mode unless and until you're too lazy to create, go with the default. And and then we have a subnet. As I told you, subnet is nothing but a smaller chunks, and this is very important. Subnets are regional. Okay, so subnets are regional. VNet VPCs are global. In Azure, it is different. So we are defining in a VNet level, not on the subnet level, but here in a GCP, it is in a subnet level, not on the VPC level. Okay, so let's go to the next.